You know, it doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while I review a product that makes me feel like a real idiot. Total moron. Complete dipshit. I'm pretty sure I way overpaid for my monitors. Yo, I'm Brian P. You're watching Bad Seed Tech, and today we're taking a look at the GN27D gaming monitor from Viotech. If you've got a keen eye, you've probably seen this monitor hiding in the background of virtually every video I've done for the past couple months. This video is very late, but that means I've spent a lot of time with it. For transparency, Viotech did send this unit out for review, but they didn't send a cherry-picked unit. This thing arrived via Amazon fulfillment, and it also arrived with 0 dead pixels. And it's got a pretty impressive spec list for the price point. At time of this video, this monitor can be had on Amazon for $329. Response time here is 4.8 milliseconds, and the contrast ratio is rated at 1,000,000:1, if you believe in that kind of spec, but the proof is in the actual user experience, and this panel can hit some serious deep blacks and some very saturated colors. It's got you covered in terms of connections as well. So you got DisplayPort 1.2, which you will need to take advantage of high refresh. You also get an HDMI 2.0 and an HDMI 1.4, so you can hook your consoles up alongside your PC. The monitor looks really sleek from the front. It's got razor thin bezels along the top and the sides, and even though the image doesn't go all the way to the bezel, it's still a really clean aesthetic. The surface of the screen itself is matte, and the lower bezel's a little thicker. It's just got the Viotech logo in gray against black. All the control buttons exist under the front bezel with the legends printed on the front. In practice, it takes a little while to get used to what each one of these do and find your way around, but the trade-off is a really clean presentation and no front-mounted power LED. Instead, the LED is pointed downwards from the power button, and it makes a little blue ring on your desktop. It's worth pointing out that the monitor does get a little warm where the control buttons are located, especially where there's exposed mounting screws, but I've been running this panel for about 3 months and I haven't seen any kind of serious issue with this. The rear of the monitor is smooth plastic minus any kind of distinct or aggressive design elements except for this large Viotech logo. All your connections attach vertically and are recessed a couple inches up into the monitor frame. This would be a total pain in the ass to connect these if it weren't for this removable panel on the back. Since I leave this monitor pushed up against the wall most of the time, I'll leave this panel off because it makes it a lot easier. The stand is really where we start to see our first signs of this being a budget entry, and not because of looks. It actually looks pretty sharp and minimal. It's just not big on function, with just a few degrees of up and down tilt, so you don't get any portrait mode, you get no side to side tilt, there's no swivel, there's no height adjust. This could be an issue for taller guys like myself, but located behind where the stand actually connects to the panel is a place to put hardware for VESA mounting. This panel comes with 4 thumb screws you can insert to mount to the smaller 75 by 75 format. Pro tip here, right when you get this panel, even if you have no plans on putting this on a monitor arm, check to make sure that those thumb screws fit and function correctly in the event that you should ever decide you want to put this thing on an arm in the future. This panel actually arrived with one of these thumb screws cross-threaded, so I couldn't get it to mount at all. Luckily, Viotech was awesome about getting new hardware out to me really quick. Menu options here are pretty thick. You can really dial it in. It's not the easiest menu system to navigate, but you'll get the hang of it pretty quick. There's also some great factory presets loaded. In practice, I pretty much use the movie preset for everything. Great blacks, the colors really pop, it looks amazing. You could tell me this was an IPS panel and I would absolutely believe you. It's worth noting here that if you're big on brightness, this panel is a little bit dimmer than most. This comes in at 250 candela per square meter versus like 300 being the industry average. I game in a darker environment pretty much all the time, so this panel never feels dim to me, especially during this all-white, full-blast logo splash screen. Yikes. There's also gaming options here to turn on one of those cheesy crosshair things for the middle of your monitor, but don't be that guy. And it's worth mentioning there are built-in 3-watt speakers here as well, but no self-respecting gamer should be relying on monitor speakers for gaming. Okay, on to performance. So a few notes here for the beginners in the crowd. First and foremost, moving from a 60 Hz panel to a 144 Hz panel will benefit your gameplay. I sincerely believe this. It's butter smooth. Whether or not you can take advantage of those 144 frames is really dependent on how strong your GPU is. And moving up to 1440p is going to tax that graphics card much harder than 1080p, so you have to take that into account as well. So basically, you need to be realistic about if your graphics card can push your games higher than 60 FPS at 1080p first, and then decide if you have even more added muscle necessary to take advantage of that at 1440p. For instance, the GTX 1660 Ti I'm testing right now is not a great option for 1440p high refresh, but it's an excellent option for high refresh at 1080p. And because this panel that we're looking at today is a native 1440p, trying to play your games on it at 1080p is really not the move. It just does not look acceptable. It's way too blurry. If you're in a position where you feel like your GPU will only do high refresh at 1080p, I'll leave a couple of links in the description for both 24-inch and 27-inch panels that VileTech also offers that are going to be 1080p 144 Hz. For what it's worth, even if you have a top GPU, I still feel like 27-inch 1440p 144 Hz is the sweet spot right now. I only really enjoy the ultra-wide experience on certain games, and I'll take a panel like this over a 4K 60 FPS panel any day of the week. It's FPS over resolution all day. Sadly, I don't have an AMD card in-house right now to test FreeSync capability, but I do have my eye on that Sapphire Nitro Plus 590. I like the blue. Recently though, NVIDIA has come out and added G-Sync compatibility for certain FreeSync panels. This panel is not on NVIDIA's list of supported FreeSync panels, but at least playing Black Ops 4, it works, and it works really well. I don't notice any adverse effect or screen flicker or anything. It worked great at 45 to 55 frames per second on a 1050 Ti, and it worked great at about 115 to 125 FPS fully maxed out on a 1080 Ti Founders Edition running at stock speeds. Tested in Shadow of the Tomb Raider on the 1080 Ti, I saw FPS ranging from 70 to 120 frames per second, and again, it worked. Every once in a while, I would see minor, very minor jitter or a little screen flicker here and there, but I'll take that over screen tearing any day of the week. I can't promise it's gonna work that solid in every title out there, but I like what I'm seeing. As for the curve, it's 1800R, and I'm pretty indifferent about it. It's not pronounced enough to make any real difference in gaming immersion, and it's not pronounced enough to make editing on a horizontal timeline feel weird, but it does look really nice on the desk. So all in all, I feel like what we've got here is a budget panel that doesn't play like a budget panel at all. Blacks are really good, colors really pop, there's no IPS glow, viewing angles seem legit. So why does this panel make me feel like an idiot? Because when it came out, I paid about $800 for my Acer G-Sync 1440p 144 Hz panel, and it only has DisplayPort in, and I went through two of them with dead pixels before I finally settled on a third. Now obviously prices have come down since, and you can get the newer version of that same Acer for about $450 right now, but you'd be really hard pressed to find anything that's this feature packed with this level of quality control priced this low in the market. I will leave a couple affiliate links in the description below if you want to grab one for yourself. It really helps me out. And that's it for this time. I'm Brian P. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that sub button, and until next time, stay up.